and welcome back to the PNN. My name is Parker Taft. Today is day 26, and for our historical person spotlight this wonderful Saturday, we're doing Zeno of Citium, the founder of the School of Stoic Philosophy, one that I personally enjoy and have read a lot about, and has shaped and molded my own personal beliefs and system of looking at the world. So, let us begin. So, who is Zeno of Citium? Well, he was born in 334 or 333 BC in Citium on the island of Cyprus. The island of Cyprus, for those who like geography, you take out a map of Europe, and it's an island that is to the southwest of Turkey. And it's a little island that sits in the Mediterranean along the coastline of Turkey, Lebanon, that general area in the eastern Mediterranean. So, who was he? Well, he was the son of a merchant and continued on in the family business, becoming actually quite wealthy till around the age of 42, when he set up the Stoic School of Philosophy in Athens. Now, Stoic is derived from the word stoa, which means porch, and was a public building in Athens he used as a teaching platform. There's a picture in the upper right-hand corner of the screen which shows what a stoa looks like. Now, this isn't what it would have looked like back in Zeno's time. It would have been a marketplace. It would have been filled with, all sorts of different people and merchants selling their wares, farmers selling their produce, auctioneers, politicians trying to gain votes, investors looking to put their hard money in trade ventures, and adventurer captains looking for money and people to sponsor their trade adventures. Not to mention, soldiers and bureaucrats operating the day-to-day life of the city. According to legend, he set up his school, and actually he arrived in Athens and set up his school after he was shipwrecked in Athens for a period of some years. He was left poor and alone in a strange land that he knew nothing about. He wandered into a bookshop where he took an interest in the works of Socrates, as written by Xenophon. As last week I talked about Socrates, you know that Xenophon was a student of Socrates who wrote extensively about Socrates and his teachings, as well as his own adventures in l'Orient, which in those days was the Turkey and the Persian Empire. Reading this got him interested in philosophy, and it is said that he approached the proprietor of the bookstore asking how he could learn more about philosophy. And at that moment in time, the great Cynic philosopher, Crates of Thebes, was walking by. And the owner motioned to Crates, and that's how Zeno of Citium became Crates of Thebes' student. He is most notable for combining different philosophies and ideas from Socrates and the Cynics to create the Stoic School of Philosophy. A lot of the philosophy of the Stoics has been brought over by the Cynics, but it's also been tempered because Cynics is looking at the world completely dispassionately and realistically. No rose-colored glasses, there's no positive, it's, black or white. There's no shades of gray. There's no, positive. There's no silver lining. It is what it is. It's reality. And while the Stoics have sort of copied that over, they emphasize courage and perseverance and that everyone has a genuine goodness and ethics. Stoic philosophy is more of a way to look at people in the world and interact with it, whereas Cynics are more of a way to evaluate information, like scientific information, historical information, which is supposed to come from a dispassionate, detached view. So, moving on swiftly, why is Zeno important? Well, for a number of reasons. He founded the School of Stoic Philosophy with its emphasis on logic and ethics, and have influenced many great leaders from Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, St. Thomas Aquinas, a Catholic saint and the theologian who combined what we consider ancient Greek and Roman philosophy with Christian teachings and reconciled that. And to President Theodore Roosevelt, I believe you all know him, to Pete Carroll, who I believe owns a football team. I think it's the Seattle Seahawks, but you can't quote me on that. Again, I'm not a sports writer or very good at remembering sports. Another thing, his school of philosophy paved the way for the spread of Christianity by creating a bridge between philosophy and religion and predisposing large portions of the learned population, scholars, leaders, government officials, etc., to support and believe in the tenets of ethics, courage, justice, and wisdom, which both Christianity and Stoicism share. There's actually a wonderful story. You have St. Augustine, who worked in the Roman court. Well, before that, he was born and raised in North Africa. And when he was young, he was taught and learned about the Stoic philosophy and the Cynics and the Epicureans, and basically a well-rounded, what you would consider classical education of the ancient Greek and Roman worlds. And while he, early in his life, was ascribed to the Cynics' view on life, as he grew older, he sort of moved towards the Stoics. And his mother, I like to point out, was a devout Christian and was always trying to teach him to become Christianize. He refused and actually ran off to Rome, and then later on, when the Roman court moved to the new city where the Roman court was, and he found that his life was very unfulfilling. So he started reading the Stoics, and then he started contemplating on the Christianity that he had so rejected from his mother. And by the end, his interest in Stoicism, his learning in Stoicism early on in his life, eventually led him to become Christian and be baptized in the Christian church and become a leader in the church. Now, I'm not saying that any of this is important to you, the layman. I just wanted to show you how Zeno played a critical role in the conversion of the Roman and Greek empires to Christianity because of its predisposition to the learned classes. So a little historical contextualization there. So, what are the lessons we can learn from his life? Well, never give up. You'll always find a way. I think that's vitally important. He didn't give up. He probably despaired, but he persevered through and did some important soul searching when faced with this huge calamity. He lost almost all of his money. He was in a foreign land where he knew no one. Some say he didn't even know the language at the time, which is surprising since Greek was the trade language of the time, but that is irregardless. But he somehow found a way to persevere, and he ended up improving himself overall. Material possessions aren't everything. I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's true. Material things can help you achieve satisfaction and happiness, but they cannot be the sole reason for your happiness. Because if you say, oh, after I get that car, or after I get that raise, I'll finally be happy. You'll never be happy, because once you achieve that, you're just going to say, oh, something else, and you're going to keep moving the goalpost over and over again, and you're never going to reach the finishing line, which is going to leave you feel unfulfilled later down the road. Zeno considered his life incomplete until he studied philosophy, and he said, I did not truly live until I studied philosophy. He'd gone 42 years, which was considerably old at the time in the ancient world. Plying his family's trade, becoming quite a wealthy merchant, but he really wasn't, as he said, living. It was just repetitive, and he kept moving the goalposts and trying to acquire more and more. And sadly, we've been kind of brainwashed because of our society into mass consumerism that buying stuff will solve our problems. It won't. We need to find satisfaction from within. I'm not saying that buying stuff isn't good, or it can help be enjoyable. Having the money to go on vacation or to have a nice car or something like that can be satisfying and happy, but you cannot derive your soul happiness and satisfaction of your life from material possessions or from outward things. Always learn. One of the first things he did when shipwrecked, I'm sure most of us would probably despair or try to find some way to get ourselves out of our situation or get us back to friendly lands. But Zeno took the opportunity to learn. He was in a foreign land, poor, didn't know anyone, but he thought it would benefit him to go and to learn, because he had nothing better to do. Even if he sent a letter, it would have been months, even a year, before his family could have raised the funds to bring him home. So he thought he'd just take the opportunity to learn. And eventually, it benefited him in the long run, because it gave him a awakening, sort of, in his inner self, and realizing that he wasn't feeling fulfilled, and it allowed him down his self-development journey, which eventually led him to founding the Stoic School of Philosophy. Happiness comes from the heart, not the mind. Again, this ties in with the material possessions aren't everything. As he grew older in life, he wasn't necessarily poor, but he wasn't necessarily rich either. And he contented himself in his teaching and following a life that he laid out for himself of ethics and logical work. Being a member of the community and productive in his sense, and calling out decadence, as he put it. So he sought happiness from what he truly loved, rather than what from society told him or what his mind told him. Live in the present. I think that's critical. He wasn't going to. Zeno didn't, or at least we don't know if he did, but according to the records and the legends, he really didn't complain about his misfortune. He just picked himself up, dusted himself off, and proceeded to go about his life in Athens. He also wasn't overly concerned with his future, which is surprising because if many of us were in the same situation, many of us would be fearful of our future and our own safety and survival. But he was in the present moment, and he was only sought out what he presently at that moment needed. And then, lastly, be content about your current life, but strive to improve. Don't chase shiny objects. Again, this ties back in with material possessions and happiness. He, after his awakening, proceeded to follow and be content with his life. He was constantly seeking to improve, thus why he became a student of Crates of Thebes, and later on of several other philosophers, and that's also why he taught to both improve himself and improve the people around him. But he was content in following the path he was. Not all of us are made out to be millionaires or famous singers or politicians, but we can all be leaders in our own way. And we can be content without lying still. We can be content without stagnating in our own personal development, which I think a lot of people don't realize in the personal development. Like, they think like you have to be unsatisfied with your life in order to want self-improvement. No, that's not the case. We should all strive to self-improvement and bettering ourselves, but we have to be content that most of us is all right. You can't be like, I hate my entire life and then self-improvement, because you won't have a direction for your self-improvement. You'll like a steam. If steam's in a pipe and is compressed, it can move impressive machinery. But if it's boiling water from a pot, the steam just dissipates into the atmosphere. So too is your effort and self-development. If you don't have a firm basis of where you're starting from, you cannot channel your energy into what you need to most improve in. Say it's confidence. Instead, say you dislike your life, so you want to have better physical health, more confidence, want to learn advanced calculus, and you have all these things that you want to improve yourself in. And by splitting your effort, you're not getting the benefit that you would by just focusing on one or two things. So, just a few lessons from the life of Zeno. Here are my sources and some further reading. I hope you enjoyed this episode of our historical spotlight. Hard to believe we're almost winding down. Today is day 26, 4 days left of our 30-day challenge. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Click that bell button for notifications. I look forward to your comments. As always, this is the PNN broadcast, signing off.